Welcome to the KBB Review podcast. I'm Andy Davis, and this is episode 6 of season 17. And yes, this week, it's the obligatory episode all about AI. It's the technology that everyone is talking about. It's permeating all aspects of our lives, and is probably going to eventually make humans redundant. But what do KBB retailers think about it? They may not be experts, but do the possibilities scare them or excite them? From what they know, how could it be useful in their day-to-day business, and how urgently do they think they need to learn more? And, probably most importantly, are there any parts of their business where they wouldn't want AI involved? It's a snapshot of opinions, concerns and revelations from our regulars Trevor, Nick and Liz. And just to illustrate the possibilities, or indeed to frighten the life out of you, I can confirm that this intro was entirely generated by a very simple AI from a sample of my real voice, although it does seem to think I'm Gary Barlow. It may ultimately overthrow us and lead to the Planet of the Apes, but you can't deny it's absolutely amazing. But first, the KBB Review Retail and Design Awards is now just a couple of weeks away, and there are only a few tickets left. So if you haven't made up your mind whether you're coming or not yet, then now's the time to do it. It's the biggest social networking event of the year, and there'll be hundreds of the best retailers, designers, suppliers and influencers there. So surely you need to be too. And no, getting one of the last tickets doesn't mean you'll be sat at the back. The seating plan really doesn't work that way, I promise. It's on March the 2nd at the Hilton Birmingham Metropole, and that's the Monday night of the KBB show, of course. Everything you need to know is at kbbreview.com/awards. See you there.
And this is the real me, I promise, and here are our real regulars. She's taken the red pill rather than the blue pill. It's Liz PJ, Liz Panting-Jones from Lima Kitchens in Milton Keynes. Hello, Liz.
Morning, Andy.
There is no fate but what he makes. It's Nick Warrington from Stuart J. Warrington in Macclesfield. Hello, Nick.
Hello, Andy.
And he wants your clothes, your boots and your motorcycle. It's Trevor Scott from RFK and Rugby. Hello, Trevor.
Good morning.
Good morning. No Justine this week as, well, see our episode on firefighting last week and it pretty much explains the whole thing. So it was only a matter of time before we did an episode on AI. Everyone's talking about it. Every podcast is doing an episode on AI. I didn't want to be left out. But let's say right from the beginning that none of us are experts. That's kind of the point. We are not experts. This is not a masterclass in how to use AI. It's a little snapshot of a cross-section of where we are with AI, whether it's a thing we even think about, whether it's a thing we're scared about. We'll see what everyone's views on it are. So, Nick, this has actually been triggered by you because in the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. And you have been genuinely looking into AI for your business, haven't you? So let's start with you. What have you been doing and where are you up to with it?
Well, I decided last year to start having a look at AI and what it could do for me. And so last year was spent mainly learning about just getting into things like ChatGPT and prompting and seeing where that would take me. And then that's developed a little bit this year. And just before Christmas, I signed up for one of the new government initiative training courses, which they call it an AI boot camp, which is an 8-week intensive course, 2 sessions a week, 4 hours per session. And the idea is that from beginning to end, you go from a complete newbie to being able to develop apps, whether that's for your business or for use externally, using AI tools. And then the app may or may not contain AI, depending on what you're trying to achieve with the app. And I'm 4 weeks through the 8-week course, so halfway through.
So that's a lot of time to spend doing it. What's your opinion of it now compared to 4 weeks ago?
Within that 4-week period, I have learned an amazing amount in terms of the different tools that are out there and how they can be used within your business, really. So you start off with a very quick introduction to an app called Lovable, but there's others out on the market, and that is an AI builder. So you describe what you want it to build for you, and you give it some parameters, and it goes away and it builds it. So that might be as simple for KBB business, that might be as simple as telling Lovable to create a landing page for a marketing campaign that you've got, so that you've got a link for people to click through that just contains a 1-page landing page with contact us details. And that is literally a 10 or 15 minute exercise to get something that you could be pushing out there and using.
Wow. All right, well, we'll come back to more details in a minute. But Liz, if you hear the phrase AI, in terms of your business, what's your first opinion or thoughts on it? Is it frightening the life out of you? Is it exciting about what is the potential of it is? What's your first immediate emotive reaction to it?
On and off, I've been using it over the last couple of years, not hugely, but in the last 6 months, I've definitely used it a lot more. Some of the things I've opted for is assessment of how we're seen in the market, where our shortfalls might be, assessing our sales process, comparing against statistics. So where do we sit against other retailers in terms of closure rate, recommendations? So we have all of that data to be able to plug in and see how we fare against others.
And what are you using to do that? Just ChatGPT or something? Or what have you got something else?
No, I've used Claude instead. It's just one that I've felt a bit more comfortable with. I've used it a lot for marketing. When I've been short on time, because we manage our own marketing as well, I've used it to write captions for posts, assess photos, which ones might get the better response. And also on my own podcast, I now type in the transcripts to get the clips. So the ones that are likely to perform the best, and anything that should be added at another kind of podcast or perhaps edited out. So there's lots of different uses that I've utilised it for.
Right. And what about you, Trevor, in your whole enormous conglomerate of showrooms? Have you used it? How familiar are you with it? Are you keen to find out more about it?
Well, we're keen to learn more about it. I mean, I'm the old fart in the room here, aren't I? So, I'm the technophobe. Give me a good spreadsheet that's been pre-designed and I'll load it with information, but don't ask me to design the spreadsheet. So, I mean, I grew up with Lotus 123, so Excel is still a bit of a... one of those strange beasts that if somebody designs me a spreadsheet and points me in the right direction, I'm happy with it. So the whole thing about AI is still somewhat at arm's length for me. But I mean, I have been using ChatGPT quite a bit of late, mostly for personal and private research, and also for sort of asking deep questions about various organisations within the industry. And mainly what I found is that it's doing the research for me. Back in the day, we would go fathoming around in Google and try and find out all the answers to those life-important questions. And now, providing you can rely on the answers, you just ask AI and it'll come up with a whole range of answers for you. And realistically, that's about as far as I've got with it. A little bit like Nick, I have worked to try and develop an inquiry form. That one of the issues that we've got within the business is that although we're very happy with our CRM post a consumer becoming a quote, we haven't actually got anything other than a quill pen and a sheet of paper to record their activities from the point of being a telephone or an email inquiry that is a formal process. And that's sort of a gap in our knowledge base. So I'm in the middle of developing a form, and I'll be using AI to develop that for me. And it's yet to go and be tested, but I'm on it. So,
but what are you using for that?
I've been using ChatGPT, and it's complete ignorance. I have nowhere else to go at the moment. So I've just made a hurried note about Claude. I'll be having a look at that later and seeing what Claude's about.
But that's why I keep asking what people are using, because I think an awful lot of people are in the same boat, and I think they just don't really know where to start with it. So, Nick, you've started with it. And I suspect, because obviously we use AI for things as well, and as I learn about it and as I develop it, what I realise is that it's a rather clumsy catch-all term, AI, because it can mean a million... It's like just saying the internet. It is a catch-all term that applies to a million different things, and I think lots of people would think of it as a content creative tool that it'll write for you, and if you want it to, it'll make you pictures or whatever. But you're very much going in at the kind of business efficiency management kind of end of it. So give us a bit more idea of the kind of things that, even at the surface that you've scratched, the kind of things it can do to make you more efficient.
And you're right, and I think it splits in terms of AI, where you're just talking to a model and it's giving you answers back and you're having discussions, and then there's where you can use the AI to do things that perhaps you wouldn't have the technical ability to do without the AI giving you a helping hand. And I think that's where I've started to do some work. So a few examples of what I've done. When I now go and do a survey at a customer's house and I'm asking questions about the kitchen and what they want to do, I have developed an app that is on my computer, and it's a survey form, and I take all the client's details. It's set up on this Surface tablet that I use, so I've set it up so I can take photographs and store those using the Surface. I've got drop-down boxes within there for all the door ranges that we offer, so I'm not scribbling a door range in, I just select those. 80% of the appliances that you end up speccing are off a relatively short list. They're all in drop-down boxes, and I've got a tab on there where I can use the stylus on here, and I can screen write my plan. So it's all now goes into a survey form, that gets downloaded, and then that is passed on to my CAD assistant, and she can start using that rather than me using sort of pen and paper. The idea is that I can then develop that further and take that data to go into the pricing model, but I've not got there yet. So that's an example of what I've done. In the AI bootcamp, I'm looking at a different aspect where our project management at the moment still just uses, a diary within Outlook. I'm working on a KBB specific programming where you have basically a wizard at the beginning where you type in details of the project, when you want to do the install, what the lead times are on various aspects, and it works out a project plan and bangs it all into a calendar for you. So those are the things that I'm working on. So it's AI helping me develop tools which probably don't even use AI once they're fully built.
What would the benefit of building your own be over using a product that's already out there? Something like Monday.com, where you can program all of that in and does a kind of a similar thing. Do you think there's benefits to building your own?
I think for me, it's two things. One is that the ones that I've used so far will do most of it, but not quite everything the way that I want it to do. So I'm trying to create something that's got as a low level of friction for use as I can, but Monday is very good. The other thing is that when you've then set it up and you've put it in Lovable or however you host it, the ongoing cost is negligible. So I'm not paying £50-100 a month for this project management software. I've spent some time up front getting it right, but then if I've got 4 people in the office using it and it's sending out notifications to my trades subcontractors if we change a date or that they're due there to do the electrics in 3 days time, all it's using is a few tokens within their software, which is a negligible monthly cost. So for me, it allows you to develop something that's got lots of features but doesn't potentially have the ongoing cost of a monthly subscription that these SaaS software providers want to tie you into.
Now, what's interesting about that is Trevor's face was getting blanker and blanker the more you were talking there. But as I say, I think that's pretty typical, Trevor. I think it's very easy to get lost in the, not jargon's the wrong word, 'cause I don't think you were using a lot of jargon there, but just the idea of it, that if you've never sort of tried it or started it, just like if you put it into Lovable and you were like, well, I don't even know what that means.
I've made a note.
Yeah, but I suppose if you were getting a new, CAD software or something, you would go and learn how to use it, wouldn't you? And I suppose, how user-friendly is all this, Nick, the stuff that you've been doing? You obviously clearly don't need to be a programmer to do this stuff. The interface is reasonably friendly, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, the way the bootcamp develops, I mean, it's quite good because it tries to give you structure and make you understand that perhaps just using one single tool does not necessarily get you the best outcome. So the model within the training that I'm having at the moment is to use a model like ChatGPT or Claude to develop a prompt that you then give to Lovable to produce the software, and then you start iterating off that. And they give you some initial prompts, template prompts to use. And then when you work through, it's amazing how quick you can get up to speed with it. The boot camp that I'm doing, there's 20 odd people on each session. Some of those people have got a relatively low starting point level, and they're still producing meaningful and useful tools for their businesses within the last 4 weeks, and we've got another 4 weeks to go.
I love the idea of all the AIs talking to each other, because that is when they become sentient, and then we're heading towards Judgment Day. But, that's fine. We'll put the whole killer robots from the future thing to one side in this discussion. So, look, Trevor, does this inspire you to think, yes, that would be useful for us? The efficiency of it, does it appeal to you?
I think it's the face of the inevitable. You can push back against it, but what's the point of doing that? Technology is there to help us. The difficulty with all technology, and this would be the same going back to the early days of design software and such like, is that the learning curve is long, painful, and quite intense. And it's something that needs to take place off the shop floor, because the day is only so many hours long and we've got customers to service and jobs to do, which we've got pre-existing systems in place to ensure go smoothly. Yes, that those existing systems sometimes still include a drawing board with a piece of A3 in it that we take out to site and measure a kitchen. And we work on the principle when it comes to measuring a kitchen for survey that if you start in the top left-hand corner of a room and you work your way around it and you arrive back where you started, then there's a fair chance your measurements are right. Where, and you draw it to scale. And that's the way I was taught how to do things. It's the way I've taught and we continue to teach all of the designers how to survey. And how much of that is going to follow through with, a nice funky tablet with a stylus, and look very pro and very modern and very, very up to speed. But if you get back and then transfer that to your CAD system and all of a sudden the room isn't quite the same size and shape as you thought it was, and you have to go back to the client and start to recheck some measurements, then that was a waste of time, wasn't it? So there are areas where, clearly it's going to enhance and improve the working environment, but there are others where still the hand of man is needed, and that, for instance, is one of them. But I mean, we've had lots of systems for decades, and we've had to learn and adapt and evolve with those systems as they've come on stream. It's just that AI sort of arrived left field very quickly and got so much conversation going on around it, and it's like, well, we've got to pay attention and we've got to learn from it and see what we can benefit from it.
It's hard though, isn't it? But I think you're right, Nick, is that what it can do is learn your system and learn your process. Rather than buying an off-the-shelf thing that you've then got to fit into, it will fit into you. I suppose that's the point you're making. I remember when I used to write about restaurants, I mean, this is obviously years ago, and it was a well-known restaurant chain, and they were showing off their new ordering system, which was a touchpad, which was like completely revolutionary at the time, that would then send it to the kitchen and it would print out, on an order, and that would go straight to the chefs. And they were very, very proud of this thing, and they invested millions in it. And then they said, but once a month we're going to turn it off, but we're just not going to tell them when. Because they wanted all the staff to still be able to do it manually if it all went horribly wrong. Because if you over-rely on it and it goes wrong, you lose everything. And I think that's the human touch, isn't it? Liz, when you look at all this stuff, there's obviously the efficiency of back office, right, which is the kind of stuff that Nick's talking about. And you can. It's really obvious that would be an incredibly useful thing. Anything that saves you time has got to be useful and worth looking at. But what about the front of house? What about the dealing with the customer? Can you see any uses for it there? You already talked about marketing and creating content for you, but is there still a wariness about that, do you think, about something that isn't quite real or right when you're talking to the customer?
So this is where my skepticism comes out and where I want to be a bit more guarded, because every time you upload a design of what we're doing, we're teaching AI. So I kind of want to hold back, but I know that that's not realistic. And there are people who are using it to create kind of concepts in their initial consultations. Say, are you thinking something along the lines of this isn't going to be the design, but if we plug it all in, is this the kind of thing you're thinking, and let's change it to green, or all of those things. So there's definitely a potential use to it. I am still of the mindset of being skeptical of how much of the work it does for us and where we then add the value above and beyond that and portray that to the clients. Yeah, although having said that, one of my designers just physically couldn't get something right on one of her designs last week and put in exactly what she wanted to see what was missing, and it helped her. It got her to where she needed to be. She met her deadline, and it just gave her the confidence to go into that appointment ready and complete. So I think we need to let go of those kind of insecurities, irrationalities.
But aren't customers coming to you? One of the USPs is that personal one-to-one experience, isn't it? And I think if they smell a whiff of inauthenticity, then that's going to send them running, isn't it?
Yeah, potentially. I think so. But I suppose it's about the language that you use and the connection that you make as well. And it comes back to, I think, a comment we made a couple of episodes ago about having the value from coming to us in terms of buying it rather than buying it online. So it's just finding those differences again to be able to translate that to the client and to people who aren't necessarily going to visit your showroom unless you give them a reason to. So it's just about adaptation again, which apparently as independents we're all really good at.
Well, look, my own view of it has always been that this can only help the independents because of the authenticity of independence, right? Because there's always going to be people who seek out authenticity. If I was Wix or Wren or whoever, a volume seller of kitchens or bathrooms, I would be all over AI because I would think this can mop up the lower budget end of things by just pressing a button and you've got your kitchen and it will do the whole thing for you. but you lose the authenticity of it. You feel that you're on a production line of something, whereas independents are different. What do you think, Nick? You obviously are our quote-unquote expert in the room. How do you feel about it doing the actual customer-facing stuff for you, doing designs for you, producing content or presentations, that kind of thing?
I think from the comment you made there about perhaps some of the large chains, I can see that they are no doubt working on it in the backgrounds, because if you, for instance, are already providing a potential customer with an online planner, for example, where they design their own kitchens, which some people do, if you could then put a plug in an AI tool into that so that the AI is helping that customer perhaps make that design a little bit better, I can see benefits there. For me, I would like to think that at this stage, at least, that what we can offer is design-wise is something beyond what AI can spot most of the time. I think where we will see it moving is, for example, if you're putting your plan in and you tell it what your requirements are, it might start producing a starter plan that you're going to work off. And so if it's doing 50-60% of the plan, and then you've got that extra time to spend refining that and improving it, then maybe that's the way it'll go. I don't personally do anything AI in front of the customers so far, but then things like presentations, again, AI can help you prepare a presentation. If you plug your images in and you want to turn that into, say, a PowerPoint presentation, then AI can do that for you and speed up that process. So there are aspects even on the external where you can do it, and like Liz says, if you're just sort of bouncing around some ideas, yes, you're sort of showing the client that you can go away and generate images yourself, but you're still using your knowledge and experience to describe to the AI what you want and the way that you want that set up. And we perhaps sometimes take for granted what our knowledge is and the extent of that knowledge in terms of setting things up and the way a design looks in a kitchen. And actually having that and being able to convey it to an AI is not a skill that the average man in the street is going to have. So you will still be able to show ability and knowledge of design, even if you're using those tools in presentations, I think. And it will gradually go that way.
But it's knowing where your secret sauce is, I suppose, isn't it? If most kitchens are 80% the same, if you know what I mean, and it's your skill comes in at the last 20% to make it different, because fundamentally it's boxes screwed to a wall, right? So identifying where you are adding your benefit. They're all scowling at me for that comment, but, persuade me it's different. What I'm saying is it's the secret sauce that the designer brings in at the end that makes those things special. A car is just a car, it's four wheels and a box, isn't it? But there's something special about a Ferrari versus a Volvo, right? So it is the bit at the end, it's the human eye, it is the idea of just knowing what's right when you see it, as opposed to being able to define it mathematically.
We are actually using it customer facing. We've been using it after survey in our confirmation meetings as an AI note taker. And that means that one, we can take our notes. Some of the notes AI, kind of when it hears a voice and some of the words in there are just absolutely hilarious. So you still need to take your own notes, but you can summarize from different people's perspectives. So if someone said something that's a little bit ambiguous, you can see how that could have been interpreted and then go back and question and clarify, which is really kind of useful. One of the reasons I've forgotten about it is because we're only now bringing that into kind of the front end of the service as well. It just means that we can be a bit more engaged with the client and don't have to keep thinking, did I write that down? Have I made the note clear enough? Because you've got that as a backup tool. So it is something we've just started bringing in front of clients as well.
It is funny because I saw one person's assessment of AI was it's someone writing bullet points and telling AI to turn that into a 1,000-word report and then sending it to someone who takes that 1,000-word report, puts it in AI and saying, "Can you just turn this into bullet points for me?" So there's a little bit of gimmickiness about it. Let's go from the other aspect of it, which is your suppliers, because all of your suppliers will be looking at AI because obviously they're driven by efficiencies. That's how they make their money, is by becoming more and more efficient. How do you feel about losing perhaps some of the personal service that you might have with suppliers because they have a chat bot or any kind of AI interface that allows you to do things? Because some of it might be really good and it kind of anticipate what it is you're trying to order, or it might remind you of things that you've forgotten to order, but other bits of it might feel a little impersonal. Trevor, what do you think?
Always the trouble with chatbots is that somebody at the other end of the system has had to think through all of the potential questions that get asked in order to develop the script that the chatbots can work within.
Well, no, because AI will learn it. That's the point.
Well, eventually it will do, but at the moment it mostly involves asking 3 or 4 questions, going around in a circle and throwing the computer through the window. So, then stomping off down to the branch of your local bank if you can find one that's open and insisting on speaking to a human being. And to a certain extent, I think that's the whole problem with AI at this very moment in time, is that it's not quite there yet. When it is there, it will be seamless and none of us will realise we're talking to AI. And then, as you say, that's the rise of the machines time, isn't it? It's it's time to get the ammunition out and start shooting all the robots.
But that will do 80% of things. That's the point, isn't it? It will take up the everyday stuff for those questions that get asked every day, and it will learn those questions and it will learn the answers to them. It's that point where it can't do it, and it needs the 20% of secret sauce that it needs to take over. And I think that's the bit where it fails at the moment, is that the transfer from one to the other isn't seamless, and that's what makes you want to throw your laptop through the window, I think.
It's true. I mean, chatbot as an example, AIs now, if you have an FAQ on your website and you send AI to go and have a look at that, it can develop a basic chatbot answering those rudimentary questions relatively quickly. If that then fields 80% of the quick phone call, what about this, what about that, and answers those questions, and then they only get through to you when they've got something a bit more detailed to talk about, it still gives a benefit to the business in terms of time efficiency. The difficulty, like Trevor says, is what you don't want is a user at the other end who gets frustrated and because of their experience moves off elsewhere. So it's that sort of tension between the two. But AI, I mean, it's moving at a rapid pace at the moment. I think people underestimate how quickly some of these models are being developed. And every time you go back and there's been a model update, they are getting better and better at doing these things. So in terms of people having chatbots plugged into their websites and that sort of thing, that's going to be happening. Well, it's already happening, and it's just going to accelerate because people are getting to the point where they expect it. I mean, you look at our suppliers. Gone are the days really where you produce for me, like cabs and doors lists and all this sort of stuff. They don't want you to send a list anymore. What they want you to do is sit at the computer and plug it all into the portal for them so that internally they've got less people needed to be processing their orders because you've already plugged it all in for them anyway. So if AI can come along and take that away and start doing that element of the job that's been transferred from supplier to independent anyway, then that's all good with me.
I think for task-driven things where there's a set outcome or a route, it's quite good. But it is at least somewhat programmed to please the person who's asking the question. So you need to really interrogate it. And I don't know that on everything that I've done, it has saved me time. I think maybe I felt a bit more confident in my answers by the time I've tried to take everyone's perspective into view and the what if this and are you trying to please me and asking all of those kind of questions. I mean, I lost 4 hours last week one evening sat on the sofa trying to assess my sales process, just trying with all of these different questions that you have to put in to get that sense check on AI itself, and also for it to cite its resources as well. And a lot of the time it'll come back and go, you got me, I don't have resources, I was sort of making it up. So I think if you've got something that's kind of a yes or no answer, then it can work. Other than that, though, it's still a bit problematic.
Yeah, so much of it is about efficiency and saving time, but its own efficiency and time saving is the bit that's currently developing. But as you say, Nick, it's moving so fast. Even in a year's time or 2 years' time, it'll be a completely different proposition again. So look, let's round this up. Let's give it 5 years, right? So Nick, in 5 years' time, what do you think the role of AI is going to be in KBB retail? Do you think it's like optional or essential? Do you think it's just inevitable that this is going to be part of it? It's going to be built into every sort of process that you have? Or is it still a relatively pick and choose option?
I think in 5 years' time, AI is going to be well and truly embedded throughout your KBB business, whether that's back office or front office.
Right. Simple as that. So, Trevor, you got 5 years.
Well, I actually see it a little bit like a Beastmax versus VHS moment, which is that individual desperate businesses are all trying to learn how to get the best out of AI for ourselves because there isn't a bigger organisation or system that already exists that is going to provide us with all of the answers. And so we're all going to go off at tangents and develop our own bits of software like Nick is. And actually what we were all waiting for is the VHS version to come along, where we just plug it in and play and it just gets on with it and does it all for us. And as a complete technophobe myself, and with as an employee of 3 under 30-year-olds, all of whom just go, oh, if you want to learn about AI, then off you go, old man, you do it. But we're too busy actually doing the job at the moment. And it's like, this is the right generation that should be embracing it, and they're the ones that are pushing back. So I think the moment is, feel free, Nick, to develop all your own software, but I'll wait till somebody comes along and sells it to me.
I'll sell it to you, though.
There you go.
That's the plan. So,
Well, new business model for you then, mate.
exactly.
What's your 5-year view on this at the moment, Liz?
We've got to embrace it. I said it 5 years ago myself. We've got to learn about it. 10 years down the line, we're already behind. I think there is still potentially, I can't quite remember, but I think there is a large retailer who is using it to an extent in customer-facing design. And that's just going to get stronger. The good thing about that, though, is that you then get the AI design from the large companies, and then in the same way, they want to know what else is out there. So it could strengthen us. But as I've said about many topics, I think that there should be a better network between independent retailers for it to bounce off backwards and forwards, and just give it some rigorous testing and help each other out, rather than being scared to share your ideas.
Yeah, I think knowing where to start, if you haven't started, is really difficult. That first step is always the hardest one. My own view is that in 5 years' time, it will just be as part of everything. It just will, and it'll be your bank, it'll be your suppliers, it'll be the CAD you use, it'll be part of everything. The important thing for independence, though, is to identify where the authenticity is needed, to identify where your customers still want to talk to somebody. They've chosen to do that rather than deal with a machine that could do it for you. And I think that's what independents have been doing for 50 years. The part now is to identify where that authenticity is still required and ring fence it. But I find the whole thing absolutely fascinating. It's completely changing my profession. I think you've also got to have a really open mind about it. I think if you just say, oh my God, it's all going to hell, then you're going to fail. But if you have a really open mind about it, because if you take the word AI out and go back 20 years and put the word internet in, all the same arguments would apply. Or even 10 years ago, put the word social media in and everyone would go, oh my God, no, we don't like it. But now it's just part of everyday life. So I think the development of it and the development of people's opinions on it is absolutely fascinating. What we've really identified here, though, is that we all need to find somewhere to go and learn about it. So we'll all follow Nick's AI bootcamp with interest.
I've put a round-robin email out to all of the staff with links to the government website with all of the courses that are available, and said it's voluntary at this stage, but go off and learn about AI, because in 3 to 6 months' time it won't be voluntary. I'll be insisting that you take these courses.
Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. In the episode description, we'll put the link through to the course that you're doing, Nick, okay? So that if people want to go and find out more, they can go in there and find it. But look, again, we've solved this topic. It's really quite a small topic. It's easily dealt with. We'll just conclude by disappearing with our thumbs up into the molten steel of the future. Thank you very much for your time, as always. We'll hopefully have Justine back next week. I'm sure we will. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Cheers, bye-bye.
I'll be back
Next week.